Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar, Marketo Account-Based Marketing from Strategy to Launch. My name is Justin. I'll be your moderator for today. Just a little housekeeping before we begin. If you're having any technical issues, send me a question in the question box. I'll try and take care of it on my end if I can. We'll also be opening up for questions as we go, so I can answer them ad hoc in the question box, and if they are beyond me, I'll pass them on to our presenters to answer at the end. We will also be providing a recording of the webinar following today's presentation, so stay tuned for that. And that's really all I got for you. Now, without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Andrew. Enjoy the webinar.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you for the introduction. Today's webinar is on Marketo Account-Based Marketing from Strategy to Launch. And today's agenda is quite simple. We are going to talk about making that decision if ABM, account-based marketing, is right for you, defining your target account strategy, some of the tool sets and helpful advice we can provide you along your journey here in the coming weeks. And then we're going to dive into the implementation of your ABM technology with respect to Marketo and launching Marketo ABM. And Tara Slover, who's with me today, will be doing those components. So about 20 minutes on the deciding and defining components, which I'll be delivering for you, and about 20 minutes on the implementation, launching, and analytics components, which should give us 5 to 10 minutes, and we aim to be done in about 50 minutes. So we want to make sure we stay on time for you, and we appreciate you setting aside time today to learn a little bit more about this topic. So just a little bit about your presenters today. Myself, Andrew Hull. I've been involved in these areas, B2B technologies and the concepts, for over 15 years. Over 7 of those running marketing operations, product marketing at a company called Right Now Technologies, which was acquired by Oracle. And then the last little over 5.5 years starting and running Elixiter, a dedicated Marketo agency. And with me today here, you'll hear from her on the back half of the webinar, is Tara Slover. She's a consultant with us. She has 3 years of extremely deep involvement with the Marketo platform and has been involved with some of Marketo's first clients on these newer technologies, account-based marketing, ABM being one of them, as well as web personalization components. So she is an expert, and we're looking forward to hearing from her after being involved with some of the early implementations. A little bit about Elixiter, as some of you may not be familiar with us. We've been a dedicated partner of Marketo since 2011, and we focus on strategy, implementation, operations, and training for Marketo, and we do it only for Marketo. We have 40 employees. You can see their smiling faces there on the screen. We're all based out of an unlikely location, Bozeman, Montana. You can see the wonderful mountains in the background. And we service clients all over the world, 10 countries and counting. And we have 35 of our employees are certified in one or many different technologies. Marketo, of course, but also Salesforce and some other realms. So these are the folks that are behind the scenes that make this happen, and they're working with you, and they've passed their best practices on to us to deliver today. So let's jump right into it. The first area we have to make the decision on is this concept, account-based marketing, right for you? This concept is not new. The concept of targeting the right accounts, engaging the right accounts, measuring whether those efforts are working are not new. I remember targeting and executing account-based programs back in 2002 and 2003, and many of you on the phone have executed account-based efforts in some form or fashion, either years or even decades before this. But what really has changed is the technology available to support your efforts, and I certainly appreciate this. I remember back in 2002, 2003, it was literally all handwork and hand collection of data hand, one-on-one conversations with sales reps to know if the account-based efforts were working. And so it's a refreshing movement here in the industry to see the technology catching up with the concepts and programs that we've run in the past. And Marketo is certainly cutting the trail on this with the account-based program, and you'll see that it's a very real, very actionable solution to help your account-based programs. So is ABM right for you? I actually have a very simple set of questions for you to determine that. If you're selling business to business, business to education, business to government, even business to consumer, if your product, solution, or service set is a considered purchase, and by that I mean it's not a credit card swipe. These are price points that require one or many stakeholders for approval. It could be an entire executive suite. It might even involve that company's board. And longer sales cycles, 6, 9, 12, 20 months. Those are very long considered purchases. If you have a target market that is small or well-defined, that's also a great area for account-based marketing. Another one that's a great way to know if you need to go down this path is when you talk with your sales team. If they're talking in accounts all the time and not using the word a lead, that is definitely a red flag going off that you need to dig deep on account-based marketing. And then if you're breaking into new verticals, geographies, product categories, there's many use cases where applying an account-based approach to those efforts is really going to pay off for you. So while I was describing those to you, if you mentally checked one or more of those items in the list, an ABM strategy is definitely in your future. So the next thing you need to do now that you've determined that you're an ABM candidate is to really think in terms of precision, not accuracy, with your targeting account. And this is a really important distinction. If you define your target accounts incorrectly, you're going to run marketing programs or campaign with stellar accuracy, but those programs are going to essentially result in option B, C, or D. And even B may look really good, but it really ends up in a poor outcome for closing new business or the right type of business. So options B, C, and D essentially are going to produce the wrong results for you. B is accurate, but not precise to the target. So ensure that you're targeting the right companies. Option A really is ultimate nirvana. It's like shooting that bullseye, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And so in my experience over the last 10, 15 years, I've used this slide to a lot of success, and it is truly simple, and that's also why it's a powerful way to articulate who you're zeroing in on, because we take the target approach and you start to apply whatever attributes around the outside of this target are most important to you. In this example, I simply have what are the company attributes. In this case, it's really company revenues or turnover, buyer function, industry type, or locations. Yours could be entirely different, but usually 4 different axes are appropriate. And you start to literally write out what the attributes are of your target market. If you cannot fill out one of these, you need to stop, because you need to do more research to understand who you're really selling to, because any account-based marketing program, if you can't do an exercise similar to this, is going to be set up to, again, provide solution B in my previous diagram, not option A. So one of the ways to get here, even if you don't personally know the answers to fill out a target like this, is to do the heavy lifting. And I mean that in a good way. Go talk with sales, sit down with them. They're definitely going to give you their opinion on who they think the target is. But you also need to look at the closed deals. That's really important. You need to research, or I like to say re-research your market. Things change. You may have assumptions that are incorrect. And just as importantly, and I can't stress this enough, is you need to clearly identify the characteristics that are not your ideal company buyer. Even if you can't get exactly to the target, many times if you get enough characteristics who are not your buyer, in this example, I would say if you look in the lower left to the local brick and mortar retail stores as being something this hypothetical company would not target, if you get enough of the negative characteristics, that can also help ensure that you're staying as precise as possible. So I wouldn't want to leave you at the end of this webinar without an action item. So I really would love to see you put pen to paper and map out your target company buyer and actually have other people look at it, walk it around the company and see how much they agree or disagree with it and see what that response is. When you start to get comfortable with that, and that for some of you might be a week process, for others that might take multiple weeks to get there, you want to think about putting your ABM strategy in the concept of a planning model. Now, the one I really like and have seen really good success with is what's called an OGSM model. That stands for Objectives, Goals, Strategies, and Measurements. It's just one of many different potential planning models out there. The link that you see here, and this will be available in the follow-up material, links to a 5-minute video by a gentleman named Mick O'Couture. He talks about this in detail, and it will make it extremely simple for you. But there's been many companies that use this. Procter & Gamble, Honda, many other companies use it both as a corporate planning tool, but also a departmental planning tool, marketing being our example here. And so you would start with what's your marketing objective in the left side. This is really at your departmental level. This is usually an objective that's 1 to 2 years in length, and that's going to stay fixed for quite a while. And then you think about the goals. The goals need to be binary, generally financial or operational measurements. So in this example, and in the example of an ABM strategy, the goal actually may be to deliver 35% marketing sourced closed deals to sales. That's very binary. It's going to tie into financial numbers. You'll notice that that goal doesn't list anything about account-based marketing because that's the end result. The strategy now are going to be the choices you make to do or not do to get to that goal. And this is where account-based marketing comes in, because that's a choice you're going to make. It's a type of program approach that you're going to make to correctly engage and measure the correct buyers. So this is where your account-based statement is going to be. And then the initiative are the things you're going to do to help deliver on that strategy. So an example here is an initiative is implementing a system capable of tracking account-based marketing programs and efforts. And that's where a solution like Marketo comes in, because you need a systematic approach in order to achieve and execute on that strategy. And then lastly, the measurements, again, go back to numbers. They're binary. Did you do it or not do it? These are your measurements along the way that tell you that your strategy and your goal is working. So an example with the measurement is going to be, or maybe, that your target list is defined and approved. That might sound kind of elementary, but with a lot of the organizations we've worked with, sometimes that's the biggest hurdle to get across, right, is actually getting consensus within your organization that the list is correct and it's been approved. And that still is actually binary. It happened or it didn't. And then there can be measurements that many of you would identify with here, that you've got 10% engagement with the target accounts in Q1, another 10% in Q2, an additional 10% in Q3. Tara will talk about how a solution, Marketo solution, allows you to actually prove that you're meeting those measurements. So that's really important. And then a last example that might be in your measurement column is X number of closed deals from target accounts by Q3 and Q4. So I hope you can see a simple one-page tool like the organizational goal strategies and measurements slide here can force you to articulate what you need to do and how you're going to do it. And again, there's other tools like this. The key is please leverage them. They're there. They really help when you need to put pen to paper and make sure that you can articulate this across your company before you even hit the technology. which is a great segue into a concept that's been around for decades but still holds true, which is don't forget the basics. You're still dealing with people, process, and technology. And when you're trying to do an account-based initiative with Marketo that's really focused at targeting and engaging and measuring the right accounts, you still need to get through and make sure that all the people are on the same page, your marketing and sales for sure, but I'll make a presumptive close that you also need all your executives on board. Your processes are there. The tools and the technologies are there. A tool set like your targeting document, your OGSM document, those are all tool sets. And then the technology, lastly, Marketo, which is a unique new entrant to this equation. And that's where we are going to turn it over to Tara. So what have we learned so far? Just a recap before we dive in and you get to see all sorts of new fascinating technology that's supporting this. You're learning how to determine if ABM is right for you, a tool set to help you define your target account and your strategy, and lastly, just understanding the strategy framework that you could put it in and make sure that you've done those 3 check boxes, which is a lot of the people and process part of this. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Tara, and she's going to take you through the demo.
Great, thank you, Andrew. All right, so as Andrew mentioned, we are going to learn how to identify our accounts from a technical perspective. We'll be segmenting our accounts into tiers, marketing to our targeted accounts, and then from there we will come back to the PowerPoint and we will go into analytics and how to determine if your account-based marketing efforts have been successful in helping you to hit your objectives. All right, so here we are in Marketo. Once you're licensed for the account-based marketing solution, you will notice that you have a new account-based marketing tile here, or you can also access the solution from the Powerball here. Upon navigating to the Marketo ABM tool, you'll be taken to this dashboard. This has a lot of great information in it, which defaults to all accounts. From here, you'll be able to take a look at your top named accounts by pipeline, understand how many named accounts you currently have identified, take a look at the open opportunities that you have associated to those named accounts, and the pipeline lying within those opportunities. So for example purposes, I'm going to go ahead and select one of these accounts. We'll select Microsoft here, which is identified as the top named account by pipeline. You'll notice that upon selecting one of these accounts, you have this information available for preview. What this is telling you is that the account score is 712. Account score is a really great feature within ABM that allows you to sum these scores across the associated members of that account. You'll also be able to see that you have 18 people on the account. You have 2 open opportunities, and here you can see some email activity, which isn't populating simply due to the sandbox environment. From there, we can click into any of these accounts and get a little bit more information. So within this dashboard, you'll notice that we have some firmographics displayed over here. We are seeing the account performance over time in terms of account score. That is configurable, so you can change this to select another element. We can take a look at that email activity, the web activity, and we get an idea of who our top people are on this account based on priority. So these stars and flames should look familiar if you're using the Marketo Sales Insight feature. Very similar concept here. Also, we can see, in addition to the account score and the people, we're also seeing pipeline here. If we had interesting moments to display, all members of this account, their interesting moments would appear in this list here, giving us a great bird's eye view into this account and the activity on the account. You'll also be able to see the opportunities associated to this account, potential people, which I'd like to dive into here in a moment, used by, and the account team. So opportunities will list your opportunities in a list format. Used by will tell you where this list is being referenced, similar to an asset in Marketo. Account team will show you the members on the account, so who's working that account, who's the account owner. And potential people is a great feature that Marketo implemented with this new ABM solution that allows you to identify records that aren't an exact match on the account, but who may be a match on the account. The way that Marketo identifies if somebody is a member or not is by looking to the email domain, the company name, and the inferred company information. So this is listed as a potential people or two potential people because we're seeing that the company does not match the domain, but the domain indicates that this is a Microsoft record. For that reason, we're seeing this as a list of potential people, which then need to be manually reviewed and added to your list. All right. So from there, we can come back to Marketo ABM, and we'll just take a look at the other elements available here. So we'll look at our named accounts here. We can create a new named account. We can either create that named account by entering that information here, similar to creating a new record in the lead database, or we can discover Marketo companies or CRM accounts. We're going to go ahead and start with discovering Marketo companies. All right, so what we can see here is that there are 1,264 companies identified in Marketo that aren't yet accounts in Salesforce. So what this is going to allow us to do is to segment this information. 1 second here. Is to segment this information by a variety of fields, including account owner, industry, country, revenue, and employees. So as you can start to see here, clean data is a crucial part of implementing your ABM strategy. We're going to go ahead and select an industry from this list to show you how you can query within Marketo ABM, and we'll select technology. From there, we can apply our filters similar to using a smart list within Marketo, and that will narrow down the companies that we have available for selection. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to go ahead and select Yahoo and go to Next. It's telling me that I am about to name one account. That company is Yahoo. There are 15 people on that account, and from here I can name the account. So I could type in Yahoo. It would show me from the dropdown if there was a Yahoo account that was already identified that I could associate this to. However, that's not yet created. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and create a new account, which I can see under the notes here that I am creating that new account. I can then click Next. This will take me to my preview view. I can see that same information here that the named account is Yahoo, the company is Yahoo. There are 15 people, and I can go ahead and create my account from there. You can then go back and select more, or we can dive into the discovery of CRM accounts, which we'll do next. So going back to named accounts, you can select New and go to Discover CRM Accounts, and you'll see a very familiar view with slightly different filters available. So here we are pulling in all of the CRM accounts who have at least one contact associated. We can filter this information by lead owner, industry, country, revenue, employees, and you'll see a new filter here, which is ABM target account. This will be a Boolean field that you'll configure on the CRM and Marketo side that you can then use to flag accounts in your CRM and identify those flagged accounts from Marketo. So we see that we have 98 accounts in our CRM that have been flagged with the ABM field as true. We can select a group of these accounts. We can go ahead and create our named account list after navigating to that preview. So it's one step shorter process, but works very similarly to the account identification or company discovery from Marketo. All right. Now we're going to come back to our named accounts. And from here, I'm going to show you how to add named accounts to a list. So we would recommend segmenting your list into multiple tiers. And for demonstration purposes, we have tiers 1, 2, and 3. Tier 1 is typically your target accounts that are the most high value. For those accounts, you will be curating content specifically for those accounts. From there, Tier 2 and Tier 3 get slightly less targeted, but should include curated content, just not at the company level. So we're still getting very targeted. We are still using specific marketing efforts to target these people differently than the rest of our accounts. We are just classifying them differently because of their revenue potential. So from here, we can go ahead and select some of these named accounts. We could select all of them. We can select a subset of them, depending on how you flagged these. And then we can go ahead and add these to an account list. As we mentioned, for demonstration purposes, we have 3 tiers here. I'm going to go ahead and add these to Tier 3. And you could expand those tiers to, say, Tier 1 upsell, cross-sell, Tier 1 net new, and so on. So those can get more granular, and you don't have to work within the cookie cutter framework of Tiers 1 through 3. All right. So now we've gone through how to review your dashboard, view your named accounts, identify accounts from your CRM or from Marketo. We've gone through account lists, adding those accounts to lists. So next we're going to go into actually marketing to those accounts. I'm going to navigate back to Marketo. And we've got a couple of pre-built programs here that I would like to walk you through. All right. So number 1, we're going to go into a live event example. So this is an example of a program where we are targeting CTOs from our Tier 1 accounts. This is an example, going back to Andrew's diagram, where if we were to identify CTOs on the buying or the buyer persona quarter of that target, where we would get really targeted in our marketing efforts. So as an example here, we have selected one of the filters available that comes with ABM, member of account list. The account list is Tier 1, and we've got our persona set up using global smart lists that we can then easily reference from within our marketing programs. In addition to being highly targeted within these communications, we have gone ahead and added an ABM tag for reporting later on down the road. And we can also add any other tags that may be applicable, such as a period cost tag here. All right. And so from here, we've selected our audience. We've tagged everything appropriately to set ourselves up for future reporting. Otherwise, this works just like a regular program, other than it's more highly targeted. You're probably spending a little bit more on this because there is a higher revenue potential with these accounts. But otherwise, this should look very familiar. All right, another example is nurture. This is a great example of how to put your account-based marketing strategy into action. Here, we are targeting those same CTOs in our Tier 1 account. So for example, if somebody attends that event or expresses interest in that event, we would then drop them into this nurture. This is broken out not only by accounts here and not only by persona, but also by early, mid, and late stage. So we do recommend getting as highly targeted as possible on as many levels as possible to make sure that this content is perfect for your audience. Here you can see that we have the early stage, which is some welcome content, mid stage, which involves some testimonials, some of that consideration content, and then late stage. Another great example of a program that you could include in these nurtures is some direct mail. So as an example, maybe we send them an email to request a demo. If they don't request, we could fire off a direct mail piece that we can then follow up on as soon as it arrives, just letting them know that we really do want to get that demo scheduled and providing a little incentive as well. Another example here, last but not least, is a digital event. So very similar to our live event. We've got everything set up the same way that we would in a a standard program, we just have a highly targeted list and we tag things a bit differently. So here we're looking for Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3. This might be content that's applicable to any of these tiers. So this is an example where we get a little bit more broad. Also, we are still targeting that key persona of Chief Technology Officers. And we'll be executing the program the same way that we would if it were any other program. We're just being highly targeted. Our content is very specific, and we're focusing all of our efforts on those accounts most likely to generate revenue. So those are some examples of how you can put your account-based strategy into action using Marketo programs. All right. Next, we're going to get into reporting, perhaps the most important piece after strategy and implementation. So when you're reporting on account-based marketing, there are some key pieces that you're going to want to report on before and after implementing your strategy. You'll want to measure pipeline and revenue. We need to track account-based marketing's influence on these elements by implementing account-based marketing tags. Here, we'll be understanding from an attribution standpoint what was effective in terms of account-based marketing. We'll be tracking velocity, so we'll want to benchmark and compare the time that it takes for us to close an opportunity after implementing ABM. And one important point of distinction here is that we will want to be comparing to apples to apples in the sense that if we are targeting only enterprise accounts using our account-based marketing strategy, we'll want to take our benchmark on enterprise accounts. Also, larger deal size. This is a goal that we hear often. We want to analyze closed-won opportunities and compare how those may have increased in value after implementing ABM. We'll also want to track engagement across the account and measure the number of contacts on each targeted account, and then deep dive from there and understand which members of that account we were really engaging with and which of those were really instrumental in closing that deal so that we can take that knowledge and make sure that we use that for future targeting in future accounts. Also, we'll want to identify the top performing programs. You'll be using a new set of programs in your account-based marketing effort, so it's important that we measure their performance separately. Also, adjusting based on results. So analyze the number of each channel and program by named account and make adjustments. So this is one of the most important parts with your reporting is that you'll want to make sure that you're taking what you've learned and you're making adjustments for future rounds of account-based marketing and future programs for your target account. All right, so to recap here, we'll want to understand how ABM has influenced pipeline and revenue compared to other marketing efforts. So to do that, we are going to be looking at attribution reporting. There are a lot of great tools out there. We recommend Marketo, Revenue Cycle Explorer, and Analytics to get this reporting. You'll be able to pull ABM in as a dimension on those Revenue Cycle Explorer reports, so that's a great benefit to using that combination. You'll also be able to report on programs and identify only those 4 target accounts using that ABM tag that we reviewed in the marketing tactics section of this presentation. We'll also want to understand if account-based marketing has shortened the sales cycle. So we will want to benchmark this, and like we said before, we'll want to benchmark those accounts and their sales cycle specifically. So if we are looking at only enterprise accounts, we'll want to benchmark enterprise accounts. Also, we'll analyze closed-won opportunities by opportunity type and compare those to the new metrics after implementing account-based marketing to understand if the implementation of our account-based marketing strategy has helped to increase the deal size. Next, we'll want to understand the programs that are top performers and also the channels that are top performers. This may be the same as your regular channels and programs. However, it may be different. So we do recommend, getting your feet wet with all of the different channels that you have available to you. There are channels that are better for account-based marketing than for all of your other accounts, such as direct mail, where we're working with very high-value accounts. Next, we'll want to track engagement in each targeted account. So to go back to that, we want to track and measure the number of contacts on each account. And then from there, using that adjustment tile that we looked at previously, we'll want to understand where we should focus our marketing efforts in the future. So understanding what worked, what didn't, and making adjustments from there. All right, and to implement your ABM technology, there are a couple of required foundational pieces, one of which is a marketing automation solution, preferably Marketo. Number two is a CRM that you can flag those accounts and get contacts associated to those accounts passed over in a timely manner so you can work those all the way through to close. All right, and with that, I will pass it over to Justin to see if we've got any questions queued up for Q&A.
Thanks, Sarah. We have a couple questions coming through. First one, is that opportunity info coming from Salesforce? Where is it coming from?
Yes, that information is coming from Salesforce or your CRM. You'll see the number of open opportunities. Those are the number of open opportunities on that account in Salesforce. And you'll also see the opportunity amount, which is also coming from Salesforce.
Great, thanks. Next question, do we need Revenue Cycle Explorer to report on ABM initiatives?
That's a great question. So we always recommend implementing Revenue Cycle Explorer, especially when you're using account-based marketing, because it is such a high dollar investment that we want to make sure that we don't miss the most crucial part, which is reporting on what's working and what's not working. And without any kind of an attribution or velocity or volume reporting solution, we wouldn't have that insight. So while it's not completely necessary to implement, you can pull some reports out of your CRM. We do highly recommend it to make sure that you're getting all attribution reporting.
Great. And then last question here, what Marketo pieces should I think about cleaning up before I implement ABM?
That's another great question. So we recommend running through a data standardization process, cleaning up your leads and contacts, and most importantly, cleaning up your accounts. So you are going to want to clean and merge any duplicate accounts. You want to make sure that all accounts are clearly identified, and that is the most crucial piece in terms of hygiene in your system prior to implementing an ABM strategy.
Great. Well, I'm not seeing any more questions coming through here, so that just about wraps up our webinar. Again, a recording of the webinar will be provided in follow-up email. If you're looking for a partner to help execute your ABM strategy using Marketo, we would love to help. Feel free to get in touch. Otherwise, have a nice day.